What everyday skill becomes suspicious if you're too good at it? In my line of work, sales, there is a method called mirroring where you try to mimic the customer's tone and energy to be more relatable. I've spent many years trying to read people and am introverted as it gets, so I like to think I do this very well, with my fellow men being the easiest to read. Well, my employer noticed this and refers to it as an advanced sales tactic. They pulled me into a Zoom with other employees who suck at closing sales and had me try to teach it to them. Cleaning liquid spills. If Junior knocks over their glass or the cat gets too close and personal with the fish tank, boat people just tend to throw a bathroom towel over it or get out the wet vac. Not super effective and tends to allow time for staining. Some salt, aerosolized carpet foam, and some paper towels will clean up anything like it was never there, and in record speed, and odd 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 speed, and odds for extra points. Using this method to clean blood out of carpets or off cheap porous tile equals people's faces are funny as frick. There was a restaurant in a hired hotel that had a casino. The waiter from that restaurant remembered our preference when we showed up with a friend 6 months later. You guys were either amazingly awesome restaurant patrons, or a frickin' nightmare. I'm a former waitress bartender turned RN. The same happens with patients. Spatial awareness. I can look at something and tell you whether or not it will fit onto a wall, into a box or car, through a hallway or stairwell, etc. I was at a shipping store a few months ago and a guy was in line behind me trying to figure out which size box to get for the box he was trying to fit into it. I pointed at a specific size and said, "That one, but only if you put your box in this side up." It slid in perfectly and he gave me the weirdest look. Somehow though, I always seem to bump into the corners of tables. Counting bills quickly. Learned when in Uzbekistan, a place where the highest denomination was 1,000 but a meal at a restaurant cost 20-30k. I bartended in NYC where closing time was after 4 AM, so the quicker I counted out my register, the quicker I could go home. I can count a stack of bills quick. Being unbothered by blood and guts. I'm a veterinarian. I've spent days up to my elbows in all manner of bodies and parts and fluids. I can watch surgery or necropsy videos over lunch. I did the knee surgery on Tuesday and somebody had to catch the new kid. The big ones aren't allowed to get faint. It's very inconvenient. Related aside, when the nice young lady at the bank says, "Oh my god, there's blood on your shirt," assuring her that it isn't your own in fact offers no reassurance. I love animals so much, and when people ask why don't I just be a vet, it's like, I don't wanna see their insides. Strep throat tests. Used to get strep a lot as a kid, so by the time I was tested for it as a 20-year-old I had the process down. They stick in the big popsicle stick to hold down your tongue and then they swab the back of your throat while you try not to gag. Well, I happened to be tested by a relatively new, young, attractive doctor this particular time, and when he complimented me on doing well on the test and not gagging, my response was, "Thanks, I've had practice." If not suspicious, it was at the very least mortifying after realizing the implication of what I said. However, as a nurse who has performed these, any adult that could do a throat swab with zero gag, cough, or flinch always made me wonder. I have a friend who could memorize numbers, plates of vehicles. He'd then be able to recall it after months in totally random conversations. Being able to recognize pills. No, I'm not a drug dealer. I just work in a pharmacy and some of them are very recognizable. Pharmacists are just licensed drug dealers. Knowing a friend's schedule, especially for close friends. I've remembered their schedules just from them randomly bringing up what classes they have in conversations. I've remembered at least half my class's schedule and probably more. It's happened a lot where someone would be like, "Yeah, I've got metal work next," and I'm like, "No, Ms. Johnson's French class is on next and she's your teacher," and then they'd be like, "Yeah, you're right." People were freaked out at first, but then they realize I'm just a walking calendar who soaks up information like I'm a sponge. Moving through unreasonably tight and cluttered spaces normally. My friends and I used to hang out at an extremely cluttered warehouse that belonged to a hoarder friend. It was full to the point where moving at all without getting stuck on something or causing a garbage avalanche was difficult. And there I was just gliding through hills of hoarded garbage like some kind of ghost. They told me it was creepy. Yay, back in high school I used to bob and weave straight through a hallway fit for a 2000+ student school. I hate physical contact with a passion. Even just a brush on my elbow or shoulder. Like learning to airbend by being the leaf. Ms. Excel. I found that by taking over reporting from others because it took them so much time. I'd automated to pull from the database where the previous owner was spending 2 hours a day copy paste hundreds of cells. A couple hours work once and I hit a button. Done. I'd used to release right away, even with a script open, refresh, save, and email it. This caused people to not trust the numbers, so now I still pull in the data but hold off on releasing it for a bit, even a bit late on occasion. If you have Outlook, there's a function to delay sending an email until a specified time. You can program it to send your email out anywhere from a minute to a year after you hit send. Remembering things about them they forgot. I told my friend I was getting a job at a store we know. She told me, I think I've been there before. Then I told she has and I repeated the conversation we had, word for word. I got some weird looks from her, lol. I'm good at stuff like that. My friend and I were talking about a hike and I mentioned that we have already done it. She said we hadn't yet. So I told her the approximate date, what we did before and after, what we talked about on it, etc. If you asked me what I had for dinner yesterday I would struggle. Telling almost instantly by feel if a bill is real or counterfeit. Though I think more people should definitely be able to do it. Lower denomination US counterfeit bills can look amazing, but the feel is always off. If you can't, you're a mark. If you can, you're suspicious. I handle money for work. I know the feel of a legit note. And lately, there's been several times I've checked the watermarks. Strange. People that are able to drastically change their personality, or the way they talk and act when around different groups of people or someone else arrives. For me it's a coping mechanism I developed from a childhood of abuse and neglect. You have to be a different person to avoid the triggers, and sometimes it just catches you as an adult. Googling. Oddly, people find it unsettling how quickly I can learn crap that untrained people aren't supposed to know. All I did was Google search till I found the info and then gave it a try. I'm not especially good at Googling, but it's baffling to see how bad at Googling some other people are. It's very helpful to be able to learn stuff quickly. Lying. And not like the everyday white lies like how are you I'm okay. No, I mean the Kisaso's kind of lying. I am super good at lying when the need arises. Like very good on the spot and it freaked out an old friend of mine. I'm just super creative and have a worst case scenario mind, so I think of a lot of possibilities. This is literally how the series Psych starts. The main character, Sean Spencer, is too good at being observant, and because he kept sending tips to the local police, they called him in for questioning because they thought he might be involved in all those crimes. So he has to pretend to be a psychic. Such a good show. It influenced my username. Lockpicking. My friend got locked out, so I grabbed the bobby pins out my hair and started picking. He thought I was a criminal. It was a master lock. If lockpicking lawyer had anything to say about it, Mr. Lock is literally the worst locks on the planet. Cleaning out stains. I cut my hand pretty badly once and blood got into my white shirt. I tried to clean it myself but the stain never got out. I told my mom, who told me to bring it with me when I came back for Christmas break, and she cleaned it. By the way, she didn't even bleach it. Her ability to clean stains so well has since then been suspicious to me. Salt saline will get almost anything out of almost anything. We play this drinking game where you take the paper bag from the store, put it on the floor standing up, and you have to bend down on one foot and grab it with your teeth. Each round, you trim a few centimeters off the top and keep lowering the bag until there's a winner. One of my very unathletic friends at the time would easily win every round. It would just be him, and he was flexible enough to get the bag only 6 inches off the ground. People were super impressed and I joked it's all that practice from sucking your own dong, and the look he gave me, combined with the awkward laugh, made me think I might have been closer to the truth than I would have hoped. Y'all are some coordinated drinkers, or you only play this at the beginning of the night. Breaking into someone's car. A few years ago I was at a new job and a co-worker locked her keys in her car. I got the door open in under a minute, The security guard watched me and had some concerns with the speed at which I opened that car without damaging it. The truth of the matter is that the guard wasn't paying attention completely to what I was doing. My first car was a 2-door sports car and I learned about a design flaw with those cars when my dumbass locked my keys in the ignition. She had a similar car and her keys in the ignition, so I took advantage of that design flaw to get her door open without damage to the car. Anything with a computer. If you're good enough, with literally anything to do with computers, people will think you're able to hack computers. They'll also think you're able to fix any problem with their computers, which is equally detrimental on its own. Remembering things for other people. I pick up random things in conversations, not necessarily in a conversation with me. I like to listen. I'll wish you good luck on that special thing tomorrow. I'll tell you happy birthday. I'll tell you not to forget something. It has saved myself and people around me from getting into crappy situations. Imagine a guy at work who tells you not to forget your wife's birthday next week. Yeah, I'm that guy. ADD has taught me to remember the things I pay attention to. My grandpa, I swear he was magic, could always find a front row parking spot for anywhere we went. It didn't matter if people were parking out in the grass. If he drove up to the front there was always a spot. If there wasn't then immediately someone would pull out of their spot to leave. Always. Sadly, he did not pass down this magic to anyone. This matches well with my grandma who is absolutely 100% a fae. It doesn't matter what kind of plant it is or what weather we have, her plants are always perfect. They bloom early and keep blooming way longer than they should. We had an ice storm this last winter that took out so many trees. Every tree around my grandma's house was damaged and had broken limbs. Not hers. Her trees were fine. What? Guessing passwords. I had video games addiction during young age. My parents changed the PW once a week because I kept guessing it. When they say a word in weird way, paying close attention to their facial expression, listening to their tapping sound, the state the keyboard is in are things that helped me. But the key is to know how the person thinks. I'm also able to remember most passwords that I have seen once inadvertently. Using your peripherals. I've become really good mine. Another answer is looking back and forth. When multiple people stare at me I look at one person then the next and repeat until they either ask me what I'm doing or stop staring at me. How often do multiple people stare at you? Being very handy with sharp knives, knowing how to break up a carcass in very little time and with no effort. That and a substantial knowledge of chemicals. Who thought being a farmer would give me benefits of chemical knowledge? Being able to remember lots of useless information for long periods of time. I've got a great memory when it comes to random details about people's lives. They get suspicious occasionally. Reading traffic based on sounds, sight or just the wind. I don't like the noise of the city so I'll drown out the noise and just look straight ahead but move only my eyes. Took a while to learn but I can walk across some of the most busy streets with just a glance at the cars. I was blind until I was 4 so I don't use vision as much as most people and I do this. My sister constantly freaks out because I'm not looking. I'm very good at getting detailed information in my peripheral vision. I don't have to be looking directly at someone to study them. Makes me sound like a pervert, but it's a skill I developed because of living in situations where letting someone know you're watching them had bad consequences, but so was being ignorant of what they were doing. It's really freaking handy. Also, somewhat related, reading upside down has had its benefits. I can read very well when the document is upside down, but turn it a few degrees from that, and I have a heck of a time. Knowing the proper way to dispose of bury a body without it being discovered. Growing up on a ranch, you have animals die. Disposing of the carcass without attracting scavengers and predators to the ranch is a vital skill to have. I've had a few weird looks from people when watching crime shows where bodies were discovered and pointing out what they did wrong. Along with that skill, ranching brings the ability to quickly skin, clean, quarter, and butcher a carcass. I've learned to just be quiet during those shows. Good at finding purposely hidden items. Thanks to my parents hiding my devices as a kid, I even put them back after use. It got to the point where I had to watch out small stuff like specifically placed objects which are essentially traps my parents put to see if I opened something up to get it. It ranged from hairpins to even clean wiped surfaces and more. It was the exact same for me, except I was a cocky little crap, so after finding it and playing with it, I would just show my parents and say something like, "You should hide this better." Lying. Wait, no, that's wrong. The better you are, the less likely anybody notices. The problem comes up when you use your skills to help somebody out, and they later remember just how effective and seamless your cover story was. Being able to strike up a rapport with random people. After someone else sees you do it, they act weird like you're a Jedi or something. Walking quietly. I've actually learned to start dragging my feet to deliberately make noise when I get within hearing range of people so I don't startle them by coming up right behind of them out of nowhere. Counting bills. I am really good at it, and well, I've been assumed by police and some actual thugs to be a criminal, but I was just an accountant for my family's business. Tearing boxes. I had a female co-worker who knew how to tear huge boxes like it's nothing. Like in 2 seconds there is nothing left out of the box. Third time she did it, she got a lot of strange looks. Reading body language and being particularly sensitive to people. I have a friend who's so good at it, he knows what you're going to do before it ever even crosses your mind. First time he pulled the whammy on me was when I was just about to look for the remote and he handed it to me. No looking around or anything. I just shifted slightly about to get up and he goes, "Here's the remote." Seemed pretty cool at the time, but then a few weeks later we were eating out together and I couldn't decide on whether I should get dish A or dish B. He told me to get dish B even though I'd never even voiced which dishes I was deciding over. I swear he's almost physic. I have an uncannily strong sense of smell, which means I can go to the bathroom in schoolwork and know who was there based on the products used when people freshen up. Have also walked down the main street in Ginza and smelled someone I'd met 6 months ago before I turned around and saw them walking by behind me. I can also predict if it's going to snow based on how the air smells. Twice I said in the middle of June, "Weird, it smells like snow," and twice there was a freak snowstorm overnight. All the people who laughed at me were giving me weird stares when they realized everything was covered in a layer of fresh snow. I guess I seemed like some kind of voodoo witch. I can also tell how many hours it's been since your last meal or who you met before me just based on scent, which is why it is nigh impossible to cheat on me. I can almost always tell which way is north, which means I can get to anywhere I've been once by just navigating where I think it should be. My mind has a pretty decent map. I can also count both fairly fast and pretty accurately, so maybe the measurements of travel X amount and west naturally occurs on some subconscious level. This doesn't help me too much because in horrible with names, so you mean that cool bar on Broadway means literally nothing to me until we get there and I remember I hate this place. Taking off a woman's bra. I'm a man. One-handed. Years ago in high school college I read that you can remove a bra one-handed by putting your thumb and finger on either side of the clasp and making a snapping motion. When I had the opportunity to try it out with my girlfriend it actually worked, but then anytime I did it with someone new I'd get a raised eyebrow and the done that a few times look. This will get buried, but for me it was reading. I was really fast with good comprehension starting at a very young age, and so I got a lot of doubt that I was actually understanding what I read, and every teacher would say I rushed through material. It still pisses me off that I had to constantly defend myself about it. Although my parents would always back me up, so that was good. They'd lived with the evidence long enough to know I was telling the truth. I used to own a small handmade cigarette shop 4 years ago. I basically know everything about rolling a cigar with paper or tobacco leaves. I sometimes smoke and roll myself a cigarette. People still look suspicious at me when I roll it in under 20 seconds. After economics led me to cheaper Rayo smokes, the amount of drugs I got randomly offered or asked for was substantial. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.